Celtics Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey everyone, welcome in. New edition of Celtics Beat here on the CLNS Media Network. We appreciate you if you are listening to the podcast, of course, via any number of outlets where you get your podcasts. Make sure you subscribe. Or if you're watching, if you're seeing us on the CLNS YouTube page, appreciate that as well. And if you are, then you already know it's not just me. It's not just Evan Valenti. We have the one, the only Abby Chin here with us, who always love when she graces us with her presence here on Celtics Beat. We try not to bug her too often, but it's a thrill when Abby jumps on. The season right around the corner. When last we spoke, only a week ago, the Celtics were poised for their trip to Abu Dhabi. They go there. Blue doors against the Nuggets a couple of times. I mean, really the blowout in one of them. The other one, it was close. Either way, they won both. So, obviously just utter domination of Nikola Jokic. He's not made to compete with the Boston Celtics. Clearly. I mean, it's written in stone. But no, obviously the preseason games were fun. Abby, welcome. Two, I'm going to say you weren't on that trip because I feel like I would have seen videos and social posts and whatever else. So maybe it's good that you got out of it. Maybe you long to go. I'm not really sure. But either way, preseason games stateside right around the corner.
And it all starts with a back-to-back. Saturday and Sunday, quick turnaround. And then the fifth and final preseason game is on Tuesday in Toronto. So yes, Celtics getting right after it. I was talking about it with people today at practice. I feel like this is not done by mistake. The Celtics wanted it this way. They have a big chunk of time after that before the season opener on October 22nd. So I feel like there must be a reason for this madness.
And I have to ask, because sometimes we plan these shows a couple days out, sometimes they sneak up on us and it's just like, oh, we should record a podcast today, who should we get on? And reached out to Abby and fortunately she was around, so that was wonderful. But you didn't get the like day before, night before heads up. Did you go home and change during your lunch break? Because I know it's very important to you to look nice when Abby's around.
It's definitely in my heading still on my little profile info. It's Abby Chin told me I look nice one time. No, I texted you when we had Abby today that I had just so coincidentally worn my best suit to work today. So just happened to wear. I don't know if I changed for Abby or if I changed for Forsberg back in the day, like mid show. I think it was Forsberg because he had something really funky on, and then I felt underdressed. So in the middle of one of his answers, I went upstairs into my closet at my house and pulled out some dinner jacket and threw it on because I felt slightly underdressed with Forsberg while he was talking. And I'm shout out to Forsberg for just.
Are you sure with Forsberg you felt slightly underdressed with Forsberg?
Look, Abby, him and I text all the time about what he's wearing on television that night, and I'm always very complimentary. Like even in the Abu Dhabi, I didn't tell him this, but I noted this: the glasses frames and the shirt matched. I thought
they always match. Yes,
that was well done.
But you work at a clothing store. Why would you have had to go home?
I don't have to go home too often for things. Sometimes if I want to throw something weird on, I have a lot of things.
What's the clothing store? Are you not allowed to shout it out?
You can. That's just it's Steve Valenti's, which is my dad's name, and we've been here for 43 years. If you didn't know by now, I certainly do a lot of shows from here in the back office. If people haven't realized this at this point, but no, Forsberg, he was just on TV. I caught him right after he just.
Oh, okay.
And he was still on set. I think you might have walked in the background, and he was still pretty dressed up. And it was one of those rare days. I was home Sunday in a sweater, and I just felt like I wasn't really giving it my all. And Forsberg was really making me look bad, so I couldn't have that at all. At all, Kaufman, you know that. Kaufman, these are things I don't have to worry about on a show with you at all.
Yeah, no, I am.
Underdressed.
I mean, I'm wearing a Superman t-shirt for people listening, not watching. So yeah, this is about as nice as it gets. Sweatpants. I mean, I'll put something. I hesitate to even use the term nicer, somewhat more respectable if I'm going out to pick the kids up at school. But if I'm just in the basement as I am right now, this is as nice as it gets. I'm sorry, I'm not going to dress up for Abby. She understands. She knows me. She gets it.
What does it have to do with me? I almost wore my Derek White t-shirt, but then I felt like you'd only see part of it, and it just looked like it looked weird. But so I went boring instead. Sorry.
Well,
I did put makeup on.
I know I invited this, but talk about the definition of the start to an off-season show. Nevertheless, the season is right around the corner. Of course, later this month, not even a couple of weeks away at this point in time. It's exciting. One of the exciting things, we had Greeny on, Dan Greenberg from Barstool last week, and one of the things that we began that show with was Celtics porn and how he is just spending his offseason, Abby, watching, reruns of Celtics finals games, of big games during the regular season or throughout that playoff run. He's, you're probably part of it because he's like binging media day interviews and all that. Like, it's just all wall to wall Celtics content. When the man can't sleep, even if he can, he's, forcing his eyelids open to consume all things Celtics for the 97th time that he has seen it. And I respect it. I respect the love, the drive, the passion. But now, and he's been tweeting, for anyone that hasn't noticed, there's new hotness. There's a new obsession for people out there, and that is the Netflix series Starting Five, which I have not yet started. I know Ev here has. Have you taken a dive into this yet? Because Jason Tatum, as we know, or as I think people know, prominently featured.
I watched the first 30 minutes last night, was all I could get through after bedtime, putting the kids to bed, and then before my own bedtime. Which obviously is going to start getting later and later once again, now that the season is here. But I'm excited about it. The LeBron stuff is a lot at the beginning. And so that to get through that. And then
getting better, Abby, just to tell you, there's more LeBron stuff coming, just to be frankly honest.
I know. And it's his production company, right? Like, obviously it's going to be, but it also was the hot topic at practice today. Jason Tatum spoke after practice. And I think one of the things I thought was awesome, and something that the producers have promised, is that we will get to see more of Jason than we usually do. And part of that is because one of the main photographers, his name is Brett Hampton. He works for the Celtics, but he also is super close with Jason and really travels everywhere with him. And so Jason said Brett was the one who captured a lot of those behind the scenes clips at home and with Deuce. And that's awesome to me, because I feel like we really will get to see an authentic side of Jason that maybe we don't get to see all the time, because he's so comfortable with Brett and he's used to having Brett around with a camera, and so is Deuce, and so is his entire family. And so I think we will get to see a lot more of Jason than we do on a regular basis. But the other thing he said that was really cool is that when they first approached him about it, he said he spoke with LeBron, and LeBron said, there is going to be a season 2. And if you wanted to be the star of season 2, I understand if you want to wait. And Jason said, no, I want to be a part of the first one. And so I think that's really cool. I mean, number one, that he was offered that, but number two, that he really wanted to be a part of it. And so then he's invested, and I feel like we will get to see a lot of who he is.
I was just going to say, I caught that quote too. And part of it, Ev, was, everything that Abby just said, but also that he's like, and I felt like we were going to win the championship, and we did.
He
and
mentioned
so,
that,
as people get through the whatever 8, 9, 10 episodes, however many episodes of this thing there are, it's just that buildup for anyone that's watched like Quarterback or Receiver, the other Netflix series in the NFL. It's the buildup throughout the year. And I mean, how wonderful that the one Celtic that is prominently featured of the 5 guys that they have in here, it does culminate with Banner 18. It's great.
He mentioned he fast forwarded to episode 10 to kind of
he said he went straight to 10.
Yeah. I didn't do that, and I'm avoiding a lot of the clips as much as I can, because I just want to experience it authentically and see things like kind of with fresh eyes.
Are all the episodes out, or are they released?
Yeah, they released it all at once.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on episode.
You've got some late night binging on the way, Abby.
Yes.
I'm not all the way through it. I'm on episode 3 right now, and it's I think I left off with Sabonis somewhere, but there's a lot still to kind of comb through and farm through. There was the obvious clips that have gone crazy with. We had the first game against the Wolves in Minnesota. That was a great game. And Ant, obviously talked a little bit after about how, Jason's the best. No, he's not. Like, all this stuff. It's a lot of trash talk that you would expect after winning the game like that. But like it's great. And like, what I love this summer has been kind of like the summer of the Jays. You have this show with Netflix. You have
for better or worse.
Well, you have Jaylen Brown was on Hot Ones, which again, we don't get to see a ton of Jaylen Brown doing stuff like that unless you've watched his video series on YouTube, which I did back in the day. I loved them. I thought they were great. But you get like a different side of Jaylen a little bit. He opens up about a few things, which is, I think, valuable to us who are looking to get a little bit more inside the minds of these two guys. Abby, you can speak to this better than the both of us can. Like these two guys, there's all this conversation in the Twitter sphere, X sphere, whatever sphere about, are these two guys actually friends? Do they get along? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, they're people that know them. Like, yeah, they're very friendly off the court. They just don't like to show everybody. And so now we get a better look at who these guys really are. And for people that have covered the team for as long as they've been around, it's like we're still kind of finding out who they really are behind closed doors. And it's been a nice eye-opening experience. I mean, I haven't gone through all the starting five stuff yet. I'm still rifling through it. Can't wait to get done with it. But like Jalen on Hot Ones was like literally my favorite thing. Like Abby Kaufman and I discussed how I could get a run of wings to discuss the Hot Ones episode if I could find a way to do that. I would have done that for the content. But like, and then Tatum, you get to see like inside his mind a little bit, and like the clips that have gone viral were mostly about, like today was a great example of, oh, people thought, I thought people were trolling us. That they didn't think we had a shot against the Mavericks. Like I couldn't believe how many people were actually picking against us. And it's like, yeah, I'm glad he heard all that stuff because it was driving me crazy. It was driving Kaufman crazy. Abby, I'm sure it was driving you crazy at the same time. Is this, I guess you have a better understanding of who these guys are than most people, but yet are you still itching for content like this, even though you spend a lot of your time with them throughout the regular season?
Yeah, I think something else that came out for practice today, Gary Washburn of the Globe, who I know you guys have on, asked him, when you see the side-by-sides of Jason from year one when he was just 19 years old to now it going into season 8 and then season 9 for Jaylen Brown, it really hit home for me that these guys are still evolving. We think of them as these superstar superhumans, which is true, but they're also still just people and came into the league so young and are just now on the cusp of their peak as athletes, but just as humans, becoming into their own and figuring out what platform they have, who they want to be, who they are at home. And Jason, I told this story recently. It was so funny. That first season, I distinctly remember that practice in December when he came in, we were talking to him like a regular post-game it's not a presser, group interview. And he just mentioned, well, I'm a dad now and it changes my perspective. And we all were like, what? When did that happen? And to see how he has evolved as a father and involving Deuce and all that. And Deuce also hugely prominent in the Netflix starting five. But so I think that we're all learning about them and learning more about them. And I certainly have an appetite for that. But there's also they are different people than they were then. And the fact that they are more open and more willing and able even to really be themselves and be open and authentic in these situations, I think speaks volumes about how much they have each grown. And I am excited to see who they are as people now off the floor, and then also who they will become in 8 more years or whatever that is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking earlier about how I don't know if this is representative of most fans. Maybe more fans are sort of interested in the TMZ lifestyle, if you will, of Jason Tatum. I'm not, and I don't say that in a dismissive way. I mean, I just don't like seek it out. You know what I mean? Like I'm basketball obsessed with Tatum, but I love like all things Deuce. It's entertaining and he's adorable, and as a dad with 3 sons, like that, some of it's very relatable, like it, so all that's great. But there was I don't remember if he announced this or if it was just on social media or whatever, but that he's having another kid, Tatum.
And the 2 names on the shoes in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So like Tatum Deuce, if you will, as opposed to Deuce Tatum. And I saw that and I found myself thinking, Abby, I was like, wow, like you always see, Brandy, his mom, you always see her, you always see Deuce, but I couldn't have told you if Tatum had a partner. I couldn't right now tell you if the mother of this next child is Deuce's mom. Like, I don't know anything in that way about Tatum's personal life. We see the, all things, again, basketball or sneakers, or he's over at like, Ruben's white party, or he's hanging out with Jay-Z at this, or he's part of Jordan Brand and, Netflix, or cover of NBA 2K, or like all these things that you're supposed to see and that he wants you to see. But some of this other stuff, I don't know anything about the guy. Not that I'm entitled to or need to. I just, some of that stuff is so subtle, other than Deuce, always being around, that I don't know. I find that I don't even really think about it.
I am a reporter first, so obviously I'm curious, but that does not fall under the purview of my job. And I don't know, it might be different if I worked for another station, another producer, but my producer likes to keep it hoop. And I completely respect that and appreciate that about him. So while I do enjoy gossip as much as the next person, that does not, unless it's affecting his play on the floor, which that has not been an issue for anyone on this team at all, ever. And I think that when it does become something, we try and talk about it, and we try and kind of figure out what those things are. But you're right. I do think it's a respect thing in Boston, which I appreciate. And I think that people kind of let you live your life off the floor, but are happy to talk about any and everything that happens on the court and that has to do with the Boston Celtics. But yeah, I think unless he's willing to open up and talk about how it's affecting him doing his job, then I don't see it as part of my job to report about it.
Kaufman, one of the things you're going to find out because you're going to watch this eventually, I'm assuming.
Oh, sooner than later, for sure. The thing dropped like 2 days ago, didn't it? So I haven't gotten into it yet.
And 10 hours of content for people with
get on it, Kaufman.
multiple children. Yeah.
Yeah. How have I not finished it by now? God.
It's killing me personally, actually. But one of the things I thought was interesting, because we don't get too much into what it takes to become a basketball player and what these guys do to stay at the level. And LeBron has talked about this, about what he does with his body. And he does mention, like, the number I spend on my body, none of you will actually ever know. The number is not real, but just keep that aside over here. One of the things that I liked in the show is, Tatum obviously very open about his love for Kobe Bryant and the drive that Kobe's, mentality instilled in Jason. Look, I know Jason's one of the best 7 guys on the planet at playing basketball. That guy still gets up and is at the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning every day to get better. And that's the stuff where, like, he's a great father. He's obviously an awesome teammate, but then he's got time to work on himself too in the morning and just shoot around, work on his skills. And, like, as we try and bring this back to basketball a little bit, one of the things that I really liked, Kaufman, and I think you'll enjoy this too, is just like the grind of being Jason Tatum, getting up in the morning, getting your body ready to play, but also, putting the practice time in, the stuff after practice where you take care of yourself, like all the stuff that you'd want him to do, he's doing. And again, he's done it without any of us really knowing what's going on, right? Like, and I'm not trying to paint in a bad light here, because I'm not. But there's, like, if you watch the show, there is a difference in the way that Jason Tatum leads his life and lives his life and the way Ant lives his. And I'm not saying either one of them is bad, but as someone who follows Jason Tatum, it's like, man, it's really interesting to watch. Like, this guy finds time for, like, certain things, and it's either family related or basketball related, and everything else, like, doesn't matter. And as someone who watches his team all the time and is someone who is focused on the success of this team, like, having Tatum drive the car, so to speak, you got to feel good with that guy behind the wheel in this metaphor that I've painted for you.
But maybe Abby, you tell me, like, maybe I'm being a dick when I say this, but shouldn't that be expected? I mean, I don't know how Ant lives his life, and obviously we've seen some guys not take their profession as seriously. The James Harden of the world's letting themselves get, bigger, out of shape, especially after they've been around for a while and cashed in. But if you're paid the way that Tatum is, and you are the face of the franchise, you are the number one, due respect to Jaylen Brown, you are chasing Celtics legends and being a Celtics legend and winning multiple championships. You want to be that guy, that face of the NBA. If you have that drive to, say X, Y, and Z, sort of talk the big game for all this time, I sort of feel like you have to deliver. Like, to me, getting up at 6 a.m, going to the gym and practicing outside of your team practice, just practicing on your own or with your trainer or whoever you're doing it with. Like, I don't know, like, he better be doing that. I'm not, I guess maybe I should be more impressed by it. I feel like that should be an expectation, and I'm proud that he meets that expectation. but I don't necessarily. I need to watch it, I guess, but the way you've presented it, I don't feel like I should be like throwing him flowers for it.
I just think that's what makes the great ones who they are, right? Is that they have that drive, that initiative. They not only are they in the gym at 6 a.m., they want to be there and they enjoy it. It's a way of life. But I think it's also super important and makes those earlier experiences so much more valuable. I mean, being a part of Team USA 4 years ago, or then even being part of the select team the years before that, and going to those camps and seeing how LeBron James works, what he does in his routine, and even watching an Al Horford, who we know works incredibly hard, but is super efficient in what he does. And every single thing that he does is with a purpose. And I think that everybody does it differently. Obviously, there's no two ways of the same. Everybody's body is different. And these are the things that works for Jason. But he has done everything he can to figure that out and hone that sort of routine that works best for him. And clearly it is working. It's the Celtics bring home banner number 18. But I can speak to that, Evan. I mean, I see Jason when we're on the road at every shoot around. He is the last guy to leave the gym. You see him in the hotel gyms working out every day, game day or not. And it's just, it's a lifestyle, and it's what I think differentiates people. So we'll see what happens and how Anthony Edwards' career trajectory ends up. But Jason obviously is doing everything that he can to become one of the greats who he has talked so much about this summer, and people who he is looking up to, particularly in the Celtics organization, not just the Kobe Bryants, but the Larry Birds and the Bill Russells, and living up to the expectations that you're talking about, Adam, that are absolutely the baseline when you play here in Boston and when you play for the Boston Celtics.
Quick break from today's show to tell you today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the official daily fantasy sponsor of CLNS Media, and with Prize Picks, you can now up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks in Prize Picks, folks. Is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If the player leaves the first half of his return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. And with the NFL, obviously, anybody can get hurt at any time. NBA is coming up. Again, as Celtics fans, we're all sitting here holding our breath. Hopefully, the health of the Celtics remains intact throughout the entire season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need a win to receive that $50 bonus. You just have to make a play. That's it. And Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Make sure you download the Prize Picks app today. Use that code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And folks, again, if you don't win, you still get the money. There aren't many opportunities like that. Again, that's CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. But yeah, it's just not universal, Kaufman. Like, not everybody does.
No, it's not. I mean, look at Luka. I mean, he's an incredible player, but he's, good. And to Abby's point, like, bodies are different, but he's got a beer gut. He's drinking a beer after a game. Like, yeah, people care for themselves differently. So I appreciate what Tatum does to, keep himself in the just peak physical condition that the vast majority of us, me especially, are not in. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like he's set up. He's choreographed through all the things that he's said and done throughout the years that he's going to be that guy. So now, to me, go be that guy. And I guess I'm glad he hasn't taken his foot off the gas. But again, I for lack of a better word, I've used it already. I like it. It's like he's meeting expectations.
Is this what you say to your children when they come home and start doing their homework right away? Way to meet expectations.
Yeah, get your crap done, and then you can go have your screen time and play.
This is Boston, man. We fight for championship.
Yeah, but again, it's not the same in every city. Like, there's not that pressure of, and maybe that's part of it,
Sure.
the pressure of trying to be, because he has the opportunity to be one of the greats, not just of his generation, but in like basketball history, considering what he's done at such a young age. I like the fact that he hasn't lost track of that or sight of that. He's still on that
Yeah.
trajectory to maintain that. And again, you look around the league at faces of franchises around the league. Not everybody does that stuff. That's what separates the great from the elite. That's what, like, Tom Brady was insane because 365 days of year, his schedule was set to getting his body right to play football in the regular season. LeBron's very similarly. Like, not everybody's wired that way. And it's just nice that we seem to follow a guy that's wired that way. And it's just encouraging for the future of this franchise because they just handed him, the biggest extension in NBA history until whoever breaks it next offseason breaks it. You know what I mean? It's, a lot of people gave Jalen a hard time for his contract, right? Oh my, how could you give Jalen $300 million? Well, guess what? He backed that up with winning.
Those are the people that still don't understand the whole, like, it's not about the money, it's percentage of cap. Like, until people get that through their heads and understand.
It's also just the price of doing business. That's what you do.
Exactly.
He is worth that.
Right. If you're not going to pay him, he's gone. Like, you have to pay him.
You don't have a choice.
You want to pay him.
But that's not that wasn't the point people were making. It was like, how could you give Jaylen Brown X amount of money per year? It was because he's awesome. And to Abby's point, that's the cost of doing business. But he also backed you up by winning an NBA championship, being the best guy on the team, pending who you ask, in the most important games of the year in the Eastern Conference Finals. He was the MVP of that series, and he was the MVP of the NBA Finals. So after everybody trashed him in the offseason over, oh, how could you hand Jaylen Brown that much money? He was like, I'm worth this much money, and he backed it up. Now, how many times have you gone throughout a segment throughout, ESPN throughout the day of guys, how could you pay Mike Trout? How are you paying Mike Trout this much money, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And there's so much talk about money and the money athletes make in today's world. This is just a soapbox I get on because every time I used to do call-in radio, everyone would just scream about how much money these guys are making. And I don't want to get to that point, but there's a lot of conversations about how much these guys make and are they really worth that, blah, blah, blah. Both of these guys who are faces of this franchise clearly put the time in to be not only just be awesome, but to get better every single year. And I just want to commend that. And I think it's something we should celebrate because this isn't not every fan base Coppin's having this conversation.
Well, and I think that's the point. And Abby alluded to this before, and I think it's a very good point. It's not a new point, but it is something that I don't think we really talk enough about, which is that just being in the NBA isn't being in the NBA. And I'm not even talking about the level of player, which clearly there's a hierarchy there. I'm talking about where you are. Like winning in Boston versus winning in, because we were talking about Minnesota, being a Celtics legend, being a Timberwolves legend, like the apples and oranges. These are not the same thing. And I do appreciate that someone like Tatum, someone like Brown, some of the other guys that are less heralded and have not achieved what those guys have achieved on an individual level in Boston and aren't asked to because their roles are different. There's an understanding here that, like I grew up with, Ev, you grew up with, Abby, you've been around it for many, many years. You fully understand it. You're around it at a much closer level to these guys that are trying to live up to it. That's I think maybe the bigger thing of all of this is that Tatum is doing all of those things that we outlined that he needs to do because it just, that people will come after me for putting it this way, but it just means more here. And in cities like this, Boston's not the only one, than it does in many other places. You brought up football before, Ev, like Tom Brady created that for the Patriots. He didn't walk into it. But winning as a Patriot now has a certain meaning that obviously didn't pre-Tom Brady. But if Brady was never a Patriot, that exists, in places where that was previously created. If Brady, like Brady being a Buccaneer for his career or for a segment of his career longer than he was, that isn't necessarily of the magnitude as like, man, if he had won as a Niner, as a Steeler, as a Cowboy, you know what I mean? Some of these franchises and winning there in those respective leagues it just means more, Abby.
I would agree with that. I think number one, I loved Tom Brady's clapback at Baker Mayfield. And I think that goes directly to Evan's point, is that some people are just built different. And that difference could be the difference between winning a championship and coming up short. And so, yes, I think that winning in Boston is different. I also just feel like there's a different air around this team this season in the gym. And it's only been a week or so that we've been in, but it does feel lighter and more joyful. And just I asked Jay Scrubb, who the Celtics just signed yesterday, about this, and he said there's just like a championship feeling in the building constantly. And not that they're letting their foot off the gas and are riding high and enjoying this championship too much. It's just more that I feel like that sort of weight has been lifted off their shoulders, and now they know that they're capable of doing it. They understand what it takes to get there, and they're just methodically going about the journey of trying to get another one. And so it does feel different when you walk in there. It feels lighter. It feels, I don't even know how to describe it. And I've only
feels
I
like
don't know if this is
actually
for the rest of the time. Yeah, it feels like you're walking into a championship gym. Yeah. And I don't think you can discount that. And I feel like we are going to see how these players react to that pretty quickly.
That, by the way, was my favorite Celtics headline in a press release of all time, was Celtics signed Scrub. It was like, that's not very nice.
No, it's not.
It did have two B's. His name has two B's, right? So
that's right. Yeah.
No, we've been chatting about that. The as this team's ramping up for the regular season, does anything feel different? Does anything look different? It feels like they're carrying themselves a little bit differently, but at the same time, you have to keep that hyper focus, right? Because it's like, you're walking a fine line here. Like, yeah, we appreciate all the things that happened last year. We won the championship. That's the ultimate goal. But now, as Missoula has talked about a little bit, they're the hunted. They want the targets on their foreheads, not on their backs, all these things. So, in your estimation, Abby, and again, it's only been a handful of days you've been around, and we're still kind of ramping up to this thing, but it's lighter, it's more fun, it's jovial. We love that. But they're also,
I just feel like there isn't. It just feels like there isn't that edge. Like on media day, Jason Tatum sat down and the first question was, "So you didn't play in the Olympics?" And he was like, "Damn, that's how we're starting this." And but there was still an air of humor to it, and a side of like, I am a champion. So yeah, knock me all you want, say what you want. I know that I have accomplished this goal that I set out my whole life to do. So sure, do your worst. I'm not worried about that. And you can just kind of feel that. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but that's, kind of the air that they're carrying themselves with. It feels like a different confidence. And I think that can only be a good thing.
Is that different confidence? And if you listen to Missoula, the answer is absolutely yes. But to a player, at least in what you've gathered, is that confidence leading to the same hunger? Are they just as hungry for banner 19 as they were banner 18?
I don't think Joe Missoula would let them feel satisfied about anything. As Jason mentioned, no one was happier that he was sitting out major minutes of the Olympics than Joe Missoula, who, while that's true, and he will let Jason know that, also went to Paris to kind of help him and be there for him in that situation. So Joe is, I think what we have learned about him is he is an incredible motivator, an incredible coach, an incredible culture setter. And he obviously is a sicko when it comes to studying that kind of stuff and then also implementing it and living by it. And I think the players are going to need that. They needed it last season and it worked. Clearly, they're going to need it this season. And I have no doubt in Joe Missoula right now.
Ev, to that point, actually, and we've talked about this throughout the offseason in a number of different ways, but it's just another example of Joe Missoula sort of beats to a different drum than most of us, right? Than the average person. I think this was part of Starting Five, a clip that I saw on Twitter, maybe that Greeny put out, was he was being interviewed about the offseason that Jaylen Brown has had. And again, being left off all NBA, not being part of the Olympic conversation, all of that. And, I think, I wish we could play the clip, but I think that he was asked basically, Jaylen Brown has to deal with all of this adversity. And he cuts off the reporter and he says, gets to deal.
They're
with
talking
all
about Jason.
adversity.
Yeah, this is a Tatum quote.
That was the Tatum. I
Yeah.
thought it was Jaylen. So that was Tatum. Okay.
It's a lot about just like, again, I had Chad Finn on the show about this, about how Tatum seems to be like a lightning rod just for discussion. And, the fact that he didn't play in a game, like, led the A block of every show on ESPN for like 3 straight days. And it just drove me crazy, because it's like, man, I can't imagine dealing with this. This would drive me nuts. I can't believe he's got to deal with this again. It was more about
handled it as well as you could. He wasn't saying anything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point of Missoula. It's like, no. You're so good at what you do. You get to deal with this. This is by being an elite player. This is what comes to the territory. Like, and this is sort of not the point I got with Chad, but like one of the things I tried to get to this point of, like, he's just getting a treatment that most guys, especially his age, don't get. Like LeBron says in starting 5, goes, look, I've been in the face of the league since I was 20 years old. They threw that at me. I had to deal with that. It wasn't easy to deal with at that age. And then he just eventually goes, I don't care what anybody says anymore. Obviously, LeBron has accomplished as much as any athlete could have possibly accomplished in their lifetime as an athlete. But he goes, I don't.
He sure cares.
No, he goes, well,
he's applying this stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like,
Look, the idea behind it, right, is like, it doesn't matter. They're going to say stuff. I have to focus on what I'm doing to keep my team going where it needs to be. And so Tatum's at that point of, everybody's going to talk about, if he misses 10 shots in a game or whatever. And he's just got to learn how to roll with that and not let it bother him and focus on the task at hand or the next task at hand and be fine. And that's what Joe's getting at. It's like, because you're so good, you get to deal with all the scrutiny, which you should definitely No,
if you were bad, they wouldn't care. This is a privilege to be able to do that and to be the face of this team. And it goes back to the quarterback conversation, but if you win, you get the praise, and if you lose, you get the blame. And those are the realities, but that is the privilege of being who you are, playing for this team, and being a pillar for the Boston Celtics.
Well, and it's sort of that old adage. I don't remember if it's an actual expression, but the old adage of, and it applies to everything. Professional athlete, people work in broadcasting, like you name it. It's you're loved, like Howard Stern. I don't know if he was the first one to say it, but he often gets the credit for it. Love me or hate me, but the last thing I want to be is ambivalent, like, or have you be ambivalent toward me. Like at least, one way or
You're
another.
Talking about me. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's the, it's not quite the, any PR is good PR. I mean, that's a little bit different, but I do think that to that point, like Tatum matters enough that yes, he's going to get that kind of media coverage. He's going to either have to or get to, frame it however you want, deal with all of these things, but that's because he has earned that, quite frankly. Now, whether he wants it is a different story. Probably doesn't. I'm sure it weighs on him. It's agonizing. There are plenty of days that he'd probably, like to be able to just whatever, go
to the gym and play
supermarket, go to the gym, like, just be left alone and be a normal human being. You're not. And, you've worked all your life to become not that. So it's just really interesting, all the things that are surrounding this team right now. And we're, like I mentioned before, we're being told that hunger is still there. I hope it is. I mean, I'm tired of sort of talking about it and forecasting it. I can't wait to see it. I want to see the sequel to the movie. I want to see what this next season looks like here, because they did run it back. Everybody's back. Everybody, is ready to go of consequence. I know that obviously, like, Horford's going to be load managed like crazy. Holiday may take a step back minutes wise because he's getting up there in age. Porzingis probably isn't going to play half the year. But if they are all there come mid-April, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. It's just the regular season. It's going to be fun. It's going to be enjoyable. You're going to be on the road constantly, but it's just the run up to the part that actually matters. And that's what is exciting. I'm not saying ignore the regular season. The journey's fun too. You know, we had to oftentimes on this show sort of warn people against that last year. Like, holy crap, like stop counting down to the conference finals. Like, this is a good time too. And it was an incredible year. And I hope that, Abby, this is much the same, obviously.
I hope so too. I think that there have been no indications that that is not the case. And I think as evidenced by, as Evan mentioned, all of the work that you see Jason Tatum and what he's doing behind the scenes, and Jaylen Brown coming to camp. I mean, once again, Jaylen every single year comes back better, worked on his game, worked on his body. And I don't think that's ever going to go away for him. And I know you guys have talked about it ad nauseum about the fact that these guys do have motivation, despite the fact that they're coming off a championship run. The slights are there. And you see it with these elite athletes, these just people that, yes, you may need to have that chip on your shoulder, but it's there. And I feel like part of what makes Jason and Jaylen great is that it wasn't necessarily that they had to prove everyone wrong. It's that they wanted to accomplish that. And it's all the more sweeter that they were together. It's all the more sweeter that they were able to prove all the naysayers wrong. But while I do think that they hear all of that criticism, they're very focused. And that's one of the, I think, really greatest strengths of Joe Mazzulla, is that he gets them to be able to block out all of that noise. And it is the focus. You're focused on this team, on what your role is on this game tonight and what needs to happen. Yes, we are all obviously on the same page and fighting for this ultimate goal. But all I need you to do right now is play this possession and do the best job, do your job on this possession. And I think that those goals, those immediate little inchy steps in the journey are what is important. And that's where Joe Mazzulla comes in and will be the guy to make sure that that is what they are focused on.
And we're powered by Game Time. Football season, it's here. Don't let people tell you football season's coming, because listen, the college football season, that is, I mean, literally days away. And the NFL season, that is beginning September 5th. It is right around the corner. The time to start planning is coming up. The season with our friends over at Game Time, a great opportunity to get out to games, obviously. Game Time is a new feature. It is called Game Time Picks. Makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams, like the Patriots, for instance, play live so easy. So incredibly easy. Yeah, Game Time Picks filters out the fluff, okay? Shows you incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's so many other places that you get bogged down. Game Time, it just makes things so easy.
Yeah, my favorite part, I was scrolling through it the other day, and I was like, this is what's really great is sometimes you have a significant other at home, Adam. Some of us do as well. And sometimes you look at your significant other and say, what do you want to do today? Because I don't know. What do you want to do today? Well, guess what? Game Time has something for you. You can be a little spontaneous. Get a little inspiration from Game Time. Let them help you with their This Weekend tab. Scroll through and find some events that are, around your area. They'll give you the price of everything. You can grab your tickets, have them right on your phone out of the house. It only takes a few minutes for you to do so, and curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater. All of it is shown up front. No surprise fees at checkouts, which is my least favorite thing about buying tickets anywhere. And you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, Kaufman. It's just way easier.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Use Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS. Again, that is code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code. It is CLNS, $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time! Skip.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the only thing I'll point out is everybody seems to think, I would say, various levels of extremely highly on Joe Mazzulla. Kaufman, I don't know if you got to look at the GM survey, but Joe Mazzulla ranks pretty highly in a lot of those surveys. He turned out, whether it was the best offensive scheme or defensive scheme or best motivator,
But he wasn't in the top 10 for best coach, right? Or he wasn't even 0 votes received?
There's depends on the list. I don't know if I have that one on hand, that particular slide of it. I just know if I go all the way through, as I do this very quickly. Like which head coach is the best manager / motivator of people? Joe Mazzulla finished top 3 there behind Spoelstra and Steve Kerr. Who's best offense? Joe Mazzulla came in behind Rick Carlisle. Best defensive schemes? Joe Mazzulla came in 4th behind Tibbs, Finch, and Spoelstra. Like very highly thought of. There was a list that came out from CBS where he was like 11 or 13th, and it was like, how is this possible? How are the bunch of people watching? Yeah, and that's what it's all about. But like, again, the guy's awesome. And as Kaufman, you know, he would be a terrific life coach for you. I think at some point you'd be, you know, I know your career's here, but he'd take you to the top, buddy. Trust me.
Listen, I fear that I have plateaued. I could use Missoula to lift me up to that next level. That would be great.
We can't afford him. I don't.
No, I can't.
I also, that is not how I know myself. I cannot live my life that way. I do not walk into a performance of my daughter's Little Mermaid and think, oh, they really nailed that breath and that scene change. That's not what I'm looking for. So
I'll tell you what, though, I couldn't
handle it.
I could live the Missoula life and all that comes with it a lot easier than I could live like the Tom Brady diet and caring for my body that way.
I would fail at both of them. It's good time.
Well, I'd fail at both. I'm just saying which one I'd have an easier time with.
There's a reason we are not at this level.
Oh, there's a reason that I am
in front of a green screen
basement right now.
Although avocado ice cream, I know this is controversial, but I'm not completely against it.
I haven't had it. I have zero opinion on it.
It wasn't that bad. I like avocados and I like chocolate, and then you mix them together. In ice cream form. What's bad about that?
I can't say I've tried it, but I'm a notoriously picky eater.
Yeah, Kaufman, you look like a picky eater just by. I don't know. I think we had wings one time together, and then we had like the barbecue night, and that's really all the things I've seen you eat, and I could just by looking.
That's great, wings and barbecue. What's wrong with that? There's nothing picky about that. That's a.
The Hot Ones show does stress me out, though. I don't do well with heat, and then I can't imagine having to be on camera and like snot pouring out of your nose as you're.
I would love to be on the Hot One show.
Oh, Evan, I saw the Ariana Grande one, and she didn't even flinch at the most.
That's psycho behavior.
Spicy. That was impressive.
I'll give Jalen credit. He didn't take a sip of milk at all. Not the entire. I mean, he didn't finish the wing, which is my. If I had to give him any, demerits,
he
just doesn't like milk.
But there's milk and water next to you when you do this.
Okay.
Now the rumor is you got to actually have the milk before you eat. I don't know that. I can't tell you that to
counteract
to coat the stomach before you put it in. Like afterwards doesn't make as much sense. But and Jalen brought this up a couple of times throughout the interview. He said, "Has anybody gone through this without?" Like, has an athlete ever gone?
He's challenging himself there, Kaufman. He wants to be that. He finds new challenges.
He did that on the show. Like, I'm not taking any milk until this is over.
Are you actually concerned?
He really wanted to challenge himself. Eat the wings. Don't just take a couple of little nibbles. Eat the wings and try not to have explosive diarrhea before the end of the show. That's how you have to challenge yourself, Jalen. Next time.
I mean, no, not absolutely not. I give him credit for doing the last dab is tough, where you pour a little extra hot sauce on the last wing and you eat it. That can't be. As someone who likes spicy food and has done relative different wing challenges, that last one must have been brutal, absolutely brutal to do. I couldn't imagine doing it. And again, that's what makes the show so special is like you're answering questions at the same time, and it really throws you off, like in terms of what you might answer might be. It was pretty interesting.
Before we let you go, Ab, because I think we've covered it all, really. I know, again, you weren't there, but in talking to the players today, or whichever, I don't remember if this was the first media availability since their return, but how was the trip experience overall? That outside of the games, I know obviously there was community involvement, there was all sorts of NBA. I hesitate to use the word mandated, but it's what it is, even though I'm sure they enjoyed it. But NBA activity that's part of the process. Was it an experience that overall that they were glad they were part of?
Definitely. I think Jaylen Brown, as we know, enjoyed it very much and sees the value in that. Jason Tatum said today, it was an experience, even though he's been there, it's the hospitality and the people are wonderful. And it's always something that he enjoys. It was interesting talking to Joe Mazzulla, who I think initially, as a coach, does not want to have to drag his team across the world to play 2 games and then have to come back and try to refocus and realign. But even he seemed at peace with it and felt like it was something that was productive for his group. And then also he mentioned that, because I asked him, I mean, just the adjustment for your bodies, and the Celtics did. They had 3 days off before today was their first practice on Thursday since they came back, first full team practice. And he said, it's actually harder going out there than coming back, which I feel like is true even when you're going West Coast to East Coast. It's so much easier to go to California and gain those hours back than it is to come back East and lose all that time and trying to figure out what time of day it actually is and adjusting your body clock to that. So I think that's a good sign. I'm not sure they knew it would be that way. And I did ask Joe what, the medical staff is doing to kind of mitigate some of those effects. And he was like, I don't know. That's not my job. So obviously the team is aware of it. I think that, like where we started this conversation, I think that's what the team was planning for. They had a ton of space off in between, and then they're going to get these games in and then have a ton of time afterwards to regroup before ring ceremony opening night on October 22nd, which I know you guys will preview heavily, but it is going to be huge. Did you see the TNT release, Evan?
No.
That they're going to have. So the entire TNT crew is there. Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, Shaq, all of those guys. But then Shabuzi, I think, is performing pregame.
Shabuzi was just out in Utah to start off the Utah Hockey Club. He's really making his rounds right now.
They're going out. They're going all out.
They should. It's well earned for sure. But I did see the Shabuzi thing. I did see that. I didn't know. Well, I figured TNT would be there, but I'm so fired up. I got to figure out what the menu's gonna look like that night. So I have everything kind of set up, get the ambiance right. Make sure. Look, Kaufman, it's a big night, buddy. It's a big night. Look, we haven't seen one of these in a while, so soak it all in. Probably
maybe Adam will put on a sweater or something. Change out.
Get dressed up, Kaufman.
Ring night, come on.
Oh, Kaufman,
I'll put on a Celtics sweatshirt. How about that?
Really going for it.
Get in the spirit.
Jeez.
A nice one, a new one maybe, or at least a clean one.
It's all clean, Abby. I wash my clothes. I just don't go out and do anything. Is there a
sweater at some point? I'll bring you one, Kaufman. Don't worry.
Please. Evan's going to get me fitted. It's going to be.
Well, yeah. I sent Forsberg a shirt. He wore it on air, which was nice.
Evan hasn't given you any clothes or anything like that.
No.
After all these years,
I keep nudging him. It hasn't happened yet.
No. I don't know.
Now we're doing it on the air. Maybe it'll get through.
I have a rough idea of what your sizes are. I think I can figure it out.
You cannot criticize his clothing if you're not willing to fix it.
You see?
Well, he does have
money where your mouth is.
He has a car. He can come visit.
I tell my wife the same thing. You got to stop complaining about what's in the closet. If you want, you can go out and order me something else.
I don't know. It's hard to shop for men. I've shopped for my husband before, and he's like, "No, that's not happening." So that was a waste of money.
It's not my color. It's not my style. Anything that people should be on the lookout for this season, broadcast wise, that are just your fans, your viewers of NBC Sports Boston that are excited for a new year.
First full season of Drew Carter on play-by-play, although I am sad. I obviously bittersweet. I texted with Mike Gorman the other day, and he will be there on October 22nd. So I'm excited to see him. I haven't seen him all summer, but he'll be around. And I think that he'll be around the organization, and I don't know in what capacity, but I'm hoping we see him around the Garden and stuff. And then Kayla Burton has joined the broadcast team. Mm-hmm. And she will be assisting Tom Giles on, I don't know if that's the correct phrase. She will be co-hosting along with Tom Giles on pre and post. And then also Michael Hawley has been added. I think they're trying to beef up our Celtics coverage of the champions. Nice. But for me, no, just, the usual. I'm very excited. Happy to be back. Can't wait. I feel like I've been sitting around doing nothing for months now, and I am ready to get back out there.
You've been momming. Now it's time to get back to work momming.
Yes, exactly.
That's what it is. Well, for Abby Chin, for Evan Valenti, I am Adam Kaufman. Thanks as always to the people out there listening or watching Celtics Beat. We are inching toward the regular season. It's coming here. Few more preseason games. Matter of fact, basically, let's say the 10th. So all of those, the rest of the preseason will be played before we even do another show. These games, Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday. And then, from there, hopefully, God willing, everybody is healthy. And it's just full on regular season preview. It is coming, folks. So again, thanks to Abby, to Evan. I am Adam. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you've made it this far, we will talk to you again next week.